How did Selznick's preoccupation with Gone with the Wind allow Hitchcock to change the film, Rebecca? And now it's time for a deep dive into the film, Rebecca. Rebecca is a romantic psychological thriller, film noir, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and released in 1940. It was Hitchcock's debut film in the United States and his first with producer David O. Selznick. With Judith Anderson, George Sanders, and Gladys Cooper in supporting parts, the picture stars Laurence Olivier as the brooding, aristocratic widower Maxim de Winter, and Joan Fontaine as the young woman who becomes his second wife. The film is a black and white Gothic-style story. Rebecca, Maxim de Winter's first wife, is never shown in the film because she died before the events. Her reputation and memories of her, on the other hand, are a constant presence in the lives of Maxim, his new wife, and Mrs. Danvers, the housekeeper. Rebecca premiered in theaters on April 12, 1940, to critical and commercial acclaim. At the 13th Academy Awards, it garnered the most nominations of any film that year, with 11. It won 2 Oscars, Best Picture and Best Cinematography, making it the only Hitchcock picture to win the former. The Library of Congress chose the film for preservation in the United States National Registry in 2018 because it is culturally, historically, and aesthetically important. Plot. Spoiler alert. At the French Riviera, an inexperienced young woman meets aristocratic widower Maxim de Winter and quickly becomes the second Mrs. de Winter. Maxim returns with his new bride to Manderley, his beautiful seaside castle in southwestern England, which is governed by its housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, a frigid woman who had been a close confidant of the former Mrs. de Winter, whose death she has clearly not forgotten. Rebecca's elegant bedroom suite has remained untouched, and she continues to display various objects bearing her monogram. Maxim's continual reminders of Rebecca's splendor and refinement eventually persuade the new Mrs. de Winter that he is still in love with his first wife, which could explain his unreasonable rage. She tries to gratify her husband by throwing a costume party similar to the one he and Rebecca used to throw. Danvers encourages her to imitate the attire worn by one of Maxim's ancestors in a portrait. Maxim is shocked when she emerges in the costume because Rebecca wore a similar gown at her last ball soon before her death. Mrs. de Winter confronts Danvers about it, but Danvers tells her she'll never be able to replace Rebecca and nearly persuades her to jump to her death Rebecca's room's second-story window. However, the alarm is raised at the moment because a ship has come aground owing to fog, and a sinking boat with Rebecca's body has been discovered in the rescue of the ship's crew. Maxim now admits to his new wife that his first marriage was a ruse from the start. When Rebecca announced that she had no intention of honoring her vows and would instead pretend to be the perfect wife and hostess for the sake of appearances, she tormented Maxim by claiming she was pregnant by her cousin and boyfriend, Jacques Favel, and that the estate might not pass to Maxim's family. She collapsed, hit her head, and died during a furious quarrel. Maxim hid the fact by transporting Rebecca's body in a boat, which he later scuttled and identifying another body as hers. As they both strategize how to prove Maxim's innocence, the second Mrs. de Winter sheds her naive ways in the face of the crisis. Favel tries to blackmail Maxim by threatening to divulge that she has never been suicidal if the police claim the likelihood of suicide. When Maxim gets to the police station, he is accused of murder. However, after additional examination, it is discovered she was not pregnant, but rather terminally ill. Therefore, the suicide judgment stands. Maxim understands that Rebecca had been trying to get him to kill her by inadvertent suicide in order to damage him. Maxim returns home as a free man to find Manderley, his home, on fire, set ablaze by the insane Mrs. Danvers, except for Danvers, who perishes when the ceiling falls on her. Production. At Selznick's request, the film follows the plot of novel Rebecca to the letter. However, at least one story point was changed to comply with the Hollywood Production Code, which stipulated that a spouse's murder must be punished. Maxim shoots Rebecca in the novel, but in the film he only considers killing her because she duped him into believing she was pregnant with another man's child, and her death is unintentional. Rebecca, on the other hand, was not pregnant, but she did have an incurable disease and a reason to end her life. She wanted to punish Maxim from beyond the grave. As a result, her death was ruled a suicide rather than a murder. Selznick wanted the smoke from the burning Manderley, his home, to spell out the large R, which Hitchcock thought lacked nuance. Hitchcock was able to substitute the smoky R with the burning of a monogram negligee case, laying atop a bed pillow when Selznick was distracted with Gone with the Wind in 1939. To limit the producer's ability to re-edit the film, Hitchcock edited in camera, shooting only what he wanted to show in the final cut. Selznick, on the other hand, enjoyed the post-production process. He personally edited the material, added Franz Waxman's score, and oversaw retakes and significant re-recording of Sanders, Bates, and Fontaine's dialogue. After a rough edit was previewed on December 26, 1939, rewrites and reshooting were required. Despite Selznick's insistence that the film stay true to the novel, Hitchcock made a few modifications, though not as many as he had in a previously rejected screenplay, in which he changed nearly the whole story. Mrs. Danvers is portrayed as a vengeful mother figure in the narrative, and her past is mentioned. Mrs. Danvers is portrayed as a significantly younger woman in the film. Judith Anderson would have been around 42 at the time of filming, and her backstory is never disclosed. In the film, the only thing we know about her is that she arrived at Manderley, his home, when Rebecca was a bride. Reception. An utterly wonderful film, eerie, suspenseful, handsome, and handsomely done, wrote Frank S. Nugent of the New York Times of the movie Rebecca. Variety termed it an aesthetic success, but cautioned that it was too sorrowful, deeply psychological to appeal to a broad audience. According to the Film Daily, this is a film that excels in every aspect: production, director, acting, script, and photography, and should appeal to female fans in particular. It introduces a new star in Joan Fontaine, who excels in a challenging role, and Laurence Olivier is outstanding. According to Harrison's reports, a psychological thriller for grown-ups. It is a fantastic production by David O. Selznick, and Alfred Hitchcock has once again demonstrated his directing genius in creating scenarios that thrill and keep the audience in tense suspense. Hitchcock labored hard to catch every tragic or foreboding aspect and depicts a romance which, I think, is even more compelling than the novel, according to John Mosher of The New Yorker. The film was named number 23 on Empire's list of the 100 best British films in 2016 because, despite being an American production, it is set in England and primarily starred English actors and actresses. On its initial release, the picture grossed $3 million in the United States and $1 million in the United Kingdom. In 1945, it was re-released in the United Kingdom and grossed $460,000. It was the most popular film in Britain in 1940, according to Cinematography Weekly. Honors and awards. Rebecca was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and won 2 of them. Despite winning Best Picture, it is the only picture since 1936, when prizes for actors in supporting parts were introduced, to garner no Academy Awards for acting, directing, or screenplay. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time for another deep dive into your favorite films.